Okay. Hello and welcome to our newest episode of Life Study. It's a life drawing and life in general podcast
Yeah.
with me and my good friend Mairin-taj-Kaya. Mairin-taj, how are you?
Hello. I'm all right. It's the first one of the year.
Yes, it is the first one of the year, and it's 2 days after our first big snowstorm here in
That's right.
central PA, which was fun. Did you have fun in your snow endeavors? You're kind of more in a rural area, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm a suburban. Yeah.
Okay.
It was nice to see. Well, a suburban hill that overlooks a rural area, and it was nice to see the snow and the white. I like a white
yeah,
holiday winter.
yeah,
So.
yeah. We're in a city where it looks nice for like 10 minutes, and then
It was
everything
great.
is slushy and gross. But yeah, it's not a bad storm, although evidently we are getting a really gnarly one this weekend. There's
Oh, really?
a nor'easter's coming through.
Oh shit.
I don't know how bad it'll actually be, but we're at that point where the numbers are crazy, like 17 inches of snow. So
Wow.
we'll see what actually happens. It is not unheard of to get a foot of snow though here in central PA, which we should probably mention where we are. We are at Curio Art Supply. They are a really fantastic art store here in downtown Lancaster, PA. Right next door to the Pennsylvania College of Art and Design, and it's run by a couple of actual artists, which
Yeah.
is always a plus when you need to go get some art supplies to be able to talk to someone that knows what they're talking about. So they are gracious enough to sponsor us, let us use this studio space to work, which I absolutely love it here, although it's a little chilly today. But it's a great space. So I will put a link to their website in the description. If you need some art supplies, please consider using them. They're a small shop. It matters more to folks like them than Amazon. So they will also ship orders out if you're not in the area. But if you are in the area, come by Lancaster and get lunch. There's tons of cool restaurants, and stop by Curio and tell them we said hi and we sent you. I'm also grateful to the folks at Blackwing Pencil who also send us cool pencils to use for the show and support us. So there's a link in the bio for that if you want to buy pencils from them. And yeah, that's it. Those are our friends. Mairin-taj. So it's January 7th
January.
when we're recording this, although you're not seeing this for a couple days. Did you have any resolutions for the new year?
No, and part of that is because I have a little bit of a special time around the new year generally in some way, shape, or form, but I don't actually celebrate like real New Year vibes unless I do both. So I'm Irish, and in the Celtic tradition, it's Jewel, like the beginning of the seeds going to the ground, and like the long sleep before everything starts is actually Samhain, so Halloween, New Year, October 31st and the 1st. So that's like the beginning of a new cycle.
Okay.
Also, it's in Imbolc, like the spring, so February, March. So
That's
for
cool.
me, and I think February is around the time when the Chinese New Year happens.
I believe so. Yeah.
So, and that's like their kind of big spring festival as well. So that's like when I'm gonna go into party mode. So I'm kind of in like this weird intermediate liminal sleep mode phase where it's not really happened for me yet.
That's funny. Yeah, I being American, the only tradition we have with New Year's is just like people get drunk.
Yeah, like party mode,
Yeah,
smash.
has no real meaning outside of that. I remember being a kid and always thinking how fake it all felt, because I'm like, yeah, it's New Year's for us, but like other parts of the world, like it's already new there. Like that just bugged me for some reason that it can't happen all over. So keeping it seasonal feels more authentic, I guess.
I think
you know
so.
What I mean?
It feels anything more connected to nature feels more holistic for me.
That's very cool.
So that's what I do, because it just feels right in those seasonal transitions. It's like okay, there's something meaningful here.
I like that.
That's what
I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
That's funny. We've never talked about that.
No. Yeah.
Wow.
Feedback will help improve the experience.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. What was that?
I some AI voice is talking to us. I think
Yes.
the last thing that she said was, "Your kindness gives me a charge."
I love.
That's so great. Aww.
We have a special guest. This is so wait.
It fits the theme.
This is odd as hell. Oh my god! All right, so let's get into the theme. So, I was talking to Mairin-taj about this idea that I'm seeing people for the first time online go from talking about setting New Year's resolutions to draw more. Which, by the way, we should probably start drawing. What are we in? A couple minutes in here.
Look at the time we're going. I'm gonna do 3 minutes and 39 seconds.
Whatever works for you.
Okay.
Yeah. This is uncanny.
She was listening, and so
Yes.
she wants to be part of the conversation.
Jesus. Okay, so I have noticed people going from I want to draw more this year to what's the point? There's AI.
No offense.
Yeah, no offense to our special guest. But this idea that why even bother, right? Like we are having to compete with robots drawing, and having people who are just writing a prompt and gleefully trying to make art, quote unquote, without having to actually do any of the work that it takes to learn to draw.
Yeah, right.
And so it's been weird to see, because like it struck me that there's the two main resolutions people always have every year, right? It's I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to start doing a new thing. I'm going to write that book I always wanted to write, or whatever it may be. And all of a sudden, we have ways to like cheat those two goals, right? You can, you can take a medication that like makes you lose weight, and you can have an AI do the art for you.
Oh, all immediate gratification.
Yeah.
No work and reward.
Yeah, and I'm not judging anybody that's on these medications for health reasons, and like it.
Yeah.
I don't want to make a comparison between that and AI, but it just struck me as like we're in this weird place now where I'm seeing people almost as if they're like preemptively giving up. Like, why put effort into stuff when I can press a button and do it, or take a pill and do it?
Yeah.
Whereas I think some of these medications that help, diabetics, for instance, I have several diabetics in my family that this stuff has been a miracle for. But it just feels like a weird time that people are struggling with sort of the idea of effort. You know?
Yeah.
So I was curious to see what you thought. And, it's also unique to me because you have a whole different outlook on when the year begins, right? So.
Yeah, it's a little like, I guess for that, like when the year begins thing, that's funny because it's, I'm less party mode than some people in my community, or like my partner is he's from Russia, so he's like, the party of the year is New Year's Eve.
Right.
For him. Like that's like when you have all the fun, and that's when you give the gifts and all the things. Actually,
yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's for Puerto Ricans, it's a similar thing. It's a week
really?
after Christmas.
Oh,
That's
wow.
when like it's the Day of the Three Kings. When
Yeah.
if you think about it, it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Jesus was born. That's not when you got gifts. You got gifts when the guys showed up with the cool stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I never thought of that. That's cool. So that's, I've generally been doing that for years since we've been together. Because I liked that, because I'm not religious, so I don't do the Christian thing, the Christmas thing.
Yeah.
I love the Christmas tree, because that's actually
More
Celtic.
pagan.
That's
Yeah.
that's old. That's pre-Christian. But anyway, I guess the lack of enthusiasm around this time of year has been funny to see. But I think it's really pervasive. Speaking of like what you're talking about, what the way you just put it.
The idea of like effort being up for debate. Like was it worth it?
Giving up preemptively.
Yeah.
I think that's becoming.
Was that 4 minutes?
That was 3 minutes and 39 seconds.
Whoa, that felt fast. Holy moly. I need practice.
Good thing we padded it a bit. Liz
I
wasn't
know,
too.
and what it is we haven't drawn together in like
Over
2
a
months.
month. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Feels like forever.
But we'll be amending that.
Yes, we'll be
Next
teaching.
week.
That's right. We start a new semester, and I'll be teaching a expressive figure drawing, and I'll be lucky enough to do it with Mairin-taj again. So I'm excited.
So I'm just seeing that more because, well, partly with school and partly with being around, late teen, 20-somethings, and also having one in.
Well,
in
because your
my life.
partner has children.
Yeah,
right?
my
Okay.
partner has 2 kids and one of them is still living at home. So, I feel like I see that more and more in our culture. And for me personally, I'm a big one for slowing some things down,
Yeah.
processes, perspectives. I'm a big one for art shouldn't be perpetually or solely meant to be, pumped out for the pleasure of the masses.
Correct.
There's a time and a place for that 100%, but, I don't think that that's the way we need to be teaching the public how to perceive and consume art.
I agree.
And then there's, other things too in that for me, but it's just alarming the way humanity is. Oh, I saw this great quote. I'll share it on my social media and I'll share it to you later. But there's I saw something recently shared by another artist about how young people are seemingly really enthusiastic about proaction and growth when it comes to technology, but they're not really seeing the benefits of applying that same principle to non-tech life, like art, like creativity, like the creative energy in relationship or human connection.
Yeah. They're very excited about the tools.
Yeah.
And not so much using them.
Right. Or just living.
Yeah. That's,
living is
much
beyond
better way.
tech. Yeah, so that's something that's concerning and kind of disturbing me a bit. And I think in terms of New Year's resolutions, and AI art, because we've talked about that in class, and a lot of art students or younger art people are taking notice of the AI world and are comparing their work to that or their potential features to it. And I'm like, I just kind of want to be like, if it's not for you, if it doesn't resonate, then just don't fucking look at it.
Yeah, I think it's scary, right? Because these kids have all grown up with this idea that it's already hard to get make a living.
Yeah.
I won't say get a job.
It's hard to make a life out of that.
Yeah, and the idea that you have to compete with robots, and I think they have been sort of preemptively trying to figure out a way to, if not beat it, then join it. Which, like you said, sort of takes away all the learning that comes with the process of studying art. But it's scary, and I get it. A friend of mine, an older friend, said, well, lucky for us, we're already established, and we should be good. And I was like, dude, we're the first ones that are going to get hurt. What are you talking about? There are no bystanders in this thing if it's used against us. But I also am of the mind that, and I think I've mentioned this before, my daughter's an engineer.
Yeah.
But she also built a loom recently, just for fun.
That's
and
great.
Made a table runner.
Yeah. Creative problem solving.
Yeah, and I'm like, people are still throwing pots. People are still throwing. I shouldn't limit it to pots, but art, and we're using ceramics, right?
Yeah.
People are still crocheting, knitting, doing all kinds of outdated forms of artistry. I hate to say outdated in that way, but it's true. I mean, I still use a Crocol pen, which is a couple hundred years old now, that technology.
Right.
Pencils are even older.
Yeah.
So I'm of the mind that there's still going to be a place for this stuff, even if the robots take over.
I think so, and because honestly, I think humanity, our human saga is tied to handmade old things.
Yes.
Sorry,
you're posing?
Yeah, I'm not saying that we can't evolve and grow and mature and be inventive, but
Yeah.
I think our story is so ingrained in a lot of handmade, flawed, faulty things because we ourselves are flawed and faulty.
Yeah.
You know, we're handmade in a lot of ways that I think that stuff will never go away completely.
Yeah.
Or at least I think a large portion of cultures and peoples around the world will be maintaining that link, even if other groups of people are going to be all like trying to turn themselves into cyborgs.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I saw an article yesterday I sent to my daughter about, I believe it said it was a 3 million year old tool found in Africa, which I just thought those numbers can't, is that real? Like,
yeah.
And so I think you're right. Like even with all our modern tech, the idea of something handmade that old still has some meaning. But you know, it's we're talking kind of abstract for students who are like, I give up because what's the point of learning to draw when you know the kid next to me is typing on ChatGPT or the new Adobe or whatever AI and making images that look quote unquote cooler than mine.
There's a lot of woe there. There's a lot of grief there, and I just want to say, don't give in to that. Don't give up.
Yes. Or this is maybe going to sound meaner. Or do, right? Like if that's
just
enough,
be like, all right, I'm done.
just quit.
Throw
Yeah, I
in the
mean,
towel.
because this is very difficult. Like just even if you don't intend to make a living at art, right? You just want to do it for fun. It's not fun. Not like in the traditional sense, right? Like not in the way that like you see these like wine and paint parties.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's fun, but those people don't care that much about the craft. The actual study of the craft is not often fun.
No.
And
art
so
is uncomfortable.
yeah, so if this AI thing is enough to derail even just the thought of picking it up, then maybe don't pick it up because it's not for you.
Yeah.
Not like in a snobby, gatekeepy way, but it's not for you. So find something else, or do it. You know, like I said, go to one of these wine and paint parties and just do it for fun and don't care so much about how good you get at it. But if you are still into it and you want to learn this stuff, like maybe it's time to get over the fear of this thing and just like decide, well, I'm gonna learn this thing, whether a computer can do it quote unquote better or not is irrelevant to me.
Yeah. I mean, there's sort of two things there. Comparison is never going to help you, whether you're comparing yourself to other creatives or you're comparing yourself to AI.
God, yeah.
It's just not. I've done it. We've all done it. We struggle to not do it, but it's not. It's something you have to kind of repeatedly go, okay, that's not my mantra. That's not something I need to do.
Yes.
It's not healthy. And also, studying something like drawing is you have to invest in the skill that you need to build to do it and be better and better at it, which means you have to invest in being uncomfortable. And
God, that's good. You have to invest
in being uncomfortable.
Invest in being uncomfortable.
You do, because if you're not, I mean, whether or not you're doing it for professional goals, like even if it's just a really passionate hobby and you're like, yeah, I draw in my free time.
Yeah.
I'm learning, I'm trying to grow in this skill in my free time. Even if it's just that for you, you still have to invest in being uncomfortable, because the alternative is effectively this sort of AI approach of, I just want results, but I don't want to have to do the work.
Right.
And that's what true skill is.
Yes.
Fighting against, or it's the opposite of.
Yes.
True skill is not about that.
You notice our AI guest star hasn't piped up again?
She's been quiet. Logging it for future
Flip this here real fast.
reference.
Yeah, she's probably keeping track of us. We're going to get it later when they take over. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because, my God, like, I think, and we've talked a lot in the past on this show about the culture making art about something other than art, right? Like we can't just pursue the making of art because it has to be for something. It has to be, oh, you can sell these things or you can get a job doing this. You don't hear anybody say that about other skills often. People will accept that I just want to get good at something, right? Like, and I think that's going to better me as a person, and that'll make me happy. And whatever your goals are, they don't have to be tied up to the end result and selling the thing or whatever. Like just learning to see is a human skill that we.
A dying one.
Yeah, I mean, it's unique to us, right? Like
It is.
dogs aren't looking at things going like, hey, I want to examine why this flower looks different than that one.
Right.
Sorry for the sirens. We are in a downtown area, so that happens. But anyway, that's a great point. Like, and I guess that's why it's. I don't want to say it's frustrating, but it is like disheartening to see all these people kind of lamenting. What's the point of setting a goal?
Yeah.
Dude, like I don't know. Like, you still read, even though a computer could technically read it to you.
Right.
Like it just. I think it. Art's not considered part of your education anymore, and it's a shame because I think it's not seen as like it's what you're saying. They just want to see the end product, and what's the point outside of that, which is unfortunate.
It is, because I mean, if you just take that philosophy of living and apply it to, from like if you look at it in a macro way, what is the point of being human, and what is the future of humanity if we're just looking at everything as, okay, pumping out product.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life is so much more than that. And honestly, regardless of my career or anyone's, I think, in terms of art, if you're pursuing mastering something, that's just going to improve you as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people see that in other parts of their lives. I mean, people play chess and they know damn well they're never going to do it competitively.
Yeah,
right. Like, why does art have to feel any different? No one says I got to play chess so I could sell something. I mean, like, they just like that. It keeps them sharp. It makes them feel connected to their like ability to problem solve, and because we problem solve all the time, but I don't know how many of us do it consciously.
Mm-hmm.
And I think something like chess makes it feel. My God, I hate to say it, sounds cliche, but you feel a little more alive when you're like using the part of your brain that needs, right? And I think drawing for us probably feels similar. It's not just about the like motion of your hand doing a thing, right? We're sort of figuring out how
so true. That's so true. Well, even what we said about, like, I was hearing you talking about we problem solve as in artists, people who draw problem solve all the time, like, because everything is a decision that you're making, navigating. And I think people, if we're bringing it back to life drawing or drawing in general as a skill and a discipline, then just, I don't think people know that, problem solving is so much a part of that.
Yeah, drawing is thinking.
Yeah.
I had a family member who had a brain injury, and I remember, one of the ways they would check is they would look through the eyes. And it's like, we all know the cliche of eyes, window to soul and all that stuff, but there is still something to be said for how involved looking and seeing the act of those things are to thinking and the use of your brain.
Yes, oh, so much.
Yeah, and you're not gonna get that if you quit ahead of time.
Right.
I guess, and just decide, well, this thing has a finished product already. What's the point?
Right, and also, I'm sure I've said this, or we've said this before, but on that point, it's true. It's said so much for a reason. the way you see and discern and create from your experience a thing that maybe you have seen someone else do or AI do, it's going to come out differently.
Yes.
It's going to land and look and feel differently. So there's really, I don't really buy the whole everything's been done. I mean, everything has been done, but also if we're all so unique and individual, then there's infinite ways to reiterate it or to
Yeah, exactly.
re-examine it.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, you're still going to see or approach something in a way that's unique to you. And the obvious sort of examples are, like, say, Van Gogh versus some of his in contemporaries that obviously, like, no one was painting like him.
Yeah, right.
You know, if not for that guy, we don't have that image in our head, which has become kind of ubiquitous, right? Like, that Van Gogh look, AI could replicate, but that it probably wouldn't have come up with it on its own,
Mm-hmm.
at least not with the current technology. I shouldn't say probably. It would not come up with it on its own. It needs to sort of give you this shitty version of something that already exists.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. Like, we still need people's unique looks at things to like move the culture forward.
Right, and on that note, to move the culture truly forward, I think it requires each individual maker or seer or whatever subject we're talking about to hone their skill, which requires that investment in being uncomfortable and failing a lot and growing from your failures and just maturing that capacity out of, like, a lot of some musicians are talking about how, you know, art and music isn't what it used to be because we're just playing what we hear, what we know, and you have to kind of be self-attuned in order to really truly make something not authentic, but
No, I know what you mean.
you know, like articulate and emotive and felt.
Yeah, felt is a great way to put it. Yes, like, and that's what distinguishes this AI work from the stuff you folks out there might do if you take up drawing, right? Is even a bad drawing that comes from a thing that felt the experience of making that drawing is going to be more insightful than these computer generated images. Like, there is no feeling behind them.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And I just, in a cultural observation, I would say that there's a lot of this youthful, social media informed confusion around judgment, which personally pisses me off.
Okay, that's
where, like, the concept of being judgmental, like anything
gotcha.
involving a judgment is seen as just 100% negative. Judgment equals negativity. There's nothing positive about having a judgment.
Okay.
And I kind of want to, like, we have the phrase snap judgment, which is more negative, you know, like, okay, you're making a judgment, but quickly, but on the fly, but without due consideration, which is a little bit more specific and therefore possibly more healthy. But, like, just downgrading or denigrating judgment in itself, I think, is really hurting us. Like, I think it's hurting our ability to discern.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
So we're talking not just judgment, but, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is, like, the amount of thought that has to go, maybe not even thought, but, like, examination.
Yeah, right.
That has to go into being able to make an informed judgment.
Well, I mean, like, you know, what you produce comes a lot from what you ingest. And if we're just, like, ingesting shallowness or trash or, you know, I don't know. Oh, I'm not really explaining it right now, but then then what we make is also going to have pretty low dimensionality. And I think if we're exercising our skills as draftspeople, for example, then we're exercising seeing. We're exercising really listening and paying attention and making discerning decisions. And I think that if we're shaming as a culture, paying really close attention and judging and discerning and seeing with, you know, both objectively and like with a subjective compass,
Yeah.
then we're going to be kind of downplaying those essential components to making work.
Right.
You know,
Right.
being a creator.
So you're thinking that not judgment in the terms of like, oh, that person's ugly, but in terms of like, hey, this is maybe not a good thing, and people pushing back immediately, like you're not allowed to give that kind of like let that person do that thing. You're not allowed to judge, quote unquote. I'm just trying to understand. I'm sorry.
No. I think we have taken kind of what you said, like, oh, judgment means, you know, saying that person's ugly.
Yeah.
Well, it could also mean I'm judging that. This is a silly example, but now is not the best time to cross the road because there's total like mayhem in the streets.
Yeah.
You know, like I think we have culturally taken the word judgment and really boiled it down to just if you're in judgment or if you're using judgment, then that means you're just deciding horrible things
Gotcha.
unfairly of others or the world.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that that's hurting humanity. But also more specifically just like the understanding and the appreciation of like, hey, discernment's really important as a skill.
Yeah.
And in drawing it's very, very essential.
That's a great point. I mean, we are seeing that being challenged in everything, right? Like, who are you to judge? But like,
right,
across the entire culture, right? Like,
yeah,
who is even a judge to judge, right? If you go to court,
yeah.
And
it's like, well, actually, you know, judgment has its place.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're seeing, especially in this sort of like the way politics have infected every part of our culture, right? So like, there's this funny meme with this guy that's saying, I think he's talking about John Gotti, and he's talking about. By the way, you can, if you want to sit there, that would work too.
Well, that's not too far out of your.
No, because it's over here. It's actually blocked by the stage a little bit.
Cool.
But there's this funny meme where this guy's yelling, he was the best guy around. Have you seen this thing?
No.
And the guy, and then there's like a reporter talking to him, and they're like, she says, well, what about all the murders he did? And the guy goes, what murders? And it's become a joke of like,
okay.
You know, you're like a person, so I'm not going to judge this person even if he did murders.
Oh, there you go.
And that, when you were saying it, that's why I wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying.
Yeah,
because
right.
I think there is a little bit of that in the culture.
Yeah.
I think this is a bigger discussion, but I think there's a lot of people that are just fed up with things.
Yeah.
And so the idea of, you know, we see it with this kid that shot the CEO, right? Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of people giving him a pass because just everybody hates the healthcare system so bad in this country.
Right.
But I think you also see it negatively come across with, you know, politicians. Like, well, that's my guy. Why are we judging him? He had a tough decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. And then, you know, when it's not your guy, then nothing is forgivable. And so you're right. There's sort of no room for honest judgment of like, yeah, no, that's he genuinely broke a law,
right.
And that's not okay.
Right. And I mean, we said in the beginning, this is like a life drawing and life podcast.
Yeah, we've gotten away from art a little bit.
But I think, you know, there's so much, you know, art. What is it? I think life imitate art.
Yeah,
art. You know, and so I'm a big fan of looking at the philosophy behind how you do and what you do and the way you are and how you're being in the world. And I think it applies to art as well. I think it applies to your practice. You know, if you're approaching this goal of the year of, I want to improve my drawing, but you're like, oh man, AI and oh no.
It's ruined it for me.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's an important thing you have to look at for yourself and see if you're able to get over that and do you within the world of drawing beyond how AI is flavoring, is the flavor of the month.
Yeah.
or not. And then if you're like, no, I have something that I want to master for myself. I have something I want to pursue in this for whatever reason. Then I think look at your philosophy to showing up to the practice.
Yeah.
And, are you able to commit to the journey that it is, which means you're going to have loads of discomfort along the way.
Yeah.
And hoping that you won't is just, you need a slap in the face.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think there's a time when you have to start questioning whether you had ever really had any goals to begin with, or you're just looking, or are you shopping for excuses to not pursue a thing.
There you go. Right, exactly.
Which I honestly even with all the tech, there's a part of me that takes pride in doing a kind of primitive thing.
Yeah.
But if all the
absolutely.
computers blew up today, as long as I had a stick and some dirt, I could still theoretically draw something.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of what I meant about technology is really trends and ebbs and flows with the time that it's in,
Mm-hmm.
and it can always be destroyed. I mean, there's technology of previous cultures that are effectively lost to us.
Yeah. I mean, I used to joke that before the advent of AI, that when the aliens come to take over, I'll still have a job. I'll just convince the aliens I can draw their portraits.
There you go.
And I'll be a novelty act.
Yeah. Right, but we have been able to pick out charcoal and render images on rock walls since time immemorial.
Yes.
It's, I think, handmade and that creative ingenuity of the human spirit is unkillable.
Yes.
Effectively.
Unless you kill it.
Unless you intentionally, but even collectively, if one person kills it in themselves, it's still a part of the collective
Yes,
potential.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's why I'm always talking about keep the fire, capital F.
Yes.
The creative fire.
God, that's a great way to. Yeah, because we don't know what we're losing if you're not in it.
Yeah. There you go.
So, my goodness, that's man.
I've been saying that for years, but I think when I say it, people are like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Well, I think
fire. What?
I'm writing another Mairin-taj quote. I gotta start putting these on the. I'm gonna start collecting them and putting them in the descriptions. No, but you're right. I think it sounds hyperbolic, but you really, really need to make a thing. It can feel like you have a fire that you absolutely have to kind of. Not just not put out, but you have to tend the thing.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
some of that means just being dedicated to a practice of I think I've realized, so people talk about love languages, and I used to think it's stupid. You just love things. Why do you need to give it a name? But I started to notice people say, my kids would use it, or somebody around me would use it, and I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense, right? My wife will say her love language is feeding people. She's from Greece, and this is a big deal for her.
Yes.
And I realized that my love language is probably taking care of things. We have all these stupid dogs and animals and rabbits, and I think with drawing, it's a thing you have to take care of, right? You have to.
Yes.
Not just take it for granted that you can do it, but you have to decide this is an ability that I have to kind of nurture and make sure I don't lose it. And I think your way of thinking of it as fire and tending it feeds into that. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to add kindling to the coals.
Amen. Speaking of coals, are you comfortable? I know it's a little chilly.
Well, the heater just turned off again.
Oh crap!
I don't know why.
We are about 40 minutes in.
1 second. 0. Okay.
Yeah, we'll call it a day. Just because it is cold. Wait, did it kick back on?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
That's the timer. Woo! Yeah, we're in this basement type below ground
Yes. And,
stone wall room. So.
And it's beautiful, and it's cool in the summer, but winter not so comfortable.
I mean, it'd be fine if I had clothes on, but I don't.
We'll have to, yeah. Anyway, good show. I think that was a good.
Yeah.
I wonder if.
Well, I hope it was a little bit of some more loving, tough love.
Yes.
You know.
yes. And I wonder if there's not more to be said about it. So we'll have to think about it for the next show.
Yeah, we can always expand on that.
But also, our next episode will be in February, so we'll probably move on to. Now I'm curious about your start of year being a season, not an hour. So
Yeah,
that I feel
right.
like that might be something I'd love to talk about as the weather gets warmer and we start getting out of winter.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for joining us here for another episode of Life Studied. Mairin-taj, do you want to tell them where you're mostly? You're on Patreon, which I'll link in the description, but you're also on Instagram.
Yeah, you can kind of broadly keep up with me on Instagram. That's where I sort of give notices about like my true contacts, you know, my website and my
And that is
newsletter. My Instagram is what is it? Studio _ Mair, MAIR.
Yeah, so check that out. And the Patreons are probably the easiest way to support the stuff we do. Mairin-taj offers not just like amazing art resources for artists in terms of your modeling work, but some there's been a deep dive into posting these process videos and your drawings and so there's tons of great stuff on your Patreon and I think people should check it out.
Thank you.
Again, Curio, thanks to these folks for hosting us. Yes. Please click on their link in the description, order some art supplies, or just tell them thank you for supporting the show.
They would love to hear from you, and we always appreciate it as well. And if you have any thoughts about anything we mentioned today, just share them below. Yeah,
drop them in the comments, and we will. I promise one of us will see it, and we'll maybe get back to you unless you're mean. Then we'll probably ignore you. With that, I'm Mike Hawthorne. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next month. Bye.